Peace. What's going on, folks? Welcome. February 10th, 2026. We are live at 9 p.m. just about. I'm your co-host, Cujo Brown,
I'm your other co-host, the bad guy.
and we are in the Cypher. Thank you, folks, for joining us today. We're going to start this off right. We're just going to get right into it. We left you for a moment. There's a lot going on, but let's
There's a
talk
lot
about
going
the
on today.
today. Let's get into the man of the hour, the dead man of the hour,
Mm.
J.E. Jeffrey Epstein. Let's
Oh
talk about
yes,
this dude.
3.5 million page is it? Page file dump.
Mm-hmm.
The FBI has released a not the FBI, the Department of Justice has released a new long list of extremely blacked out documents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Everything has been redacted basically with
No, dude, no.
a
There's some
lot of.
really wild shit in there. There's
Oh
mentions of
yeah.
fucking of minors, of 9 year olds. But the thing is, and this is what I guess we'll get to in a bit, but they were redacting the names of the senders and receivers of these emails, right? But
Mm-hmm.
not redacting the actual information. Where you would
Yeah.
assume that you would redact pieces of that information, like the age of a fucking minor child.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't redact that. What they did redact was the senders and receivers of the email.
So this is the largest disclosure of the following, Epstein files that we have based on the Epstein Files Transparency Act in November of last year,
Mm-hmm.
2025, which, of course, forced Trump's administration to release the documents. The files contain, let's say, I have the numbers here. I believe the FBI interview summaries, basically around 1,800 images and 2,000 videos seized from Epstein's property. And that, we don't know for certain how much more because this has been going on for decades now. So I don't even know if these numbers are accurate. I'm pretty sure that's even probably redacted or lessened to some degree. But there's a lot of information that's been released recently. And we
Mm-hmm.
could talk about the fact that something that people might want to check out is they do have a Gmail that people could actually sign into and look at the email transactions between Jeffrey Epstein and a host of other people from Elon Musk to Peter Thiel, Larry
Mm-hmm.
Summers, Steve Bannon, Bill Gates, Noam Chomsky, Alan Dershowitz, Kyrene Shalinka, Ken Starr, Seth Lloyd. I mean, you name it, they are pretty much in here. Mark Epstein, Sarah Palin.
Dude,
It's
there's
it's
there's
a host of
it's
people in here.
I saw some fucking socialite woman. She said she was saying this in a positive way too, mind you, that
Hmm.
if you weren't in some way in that file, you were a loser. Dude, there's been so many disgusting. I'll give you guys another example. There's an email in there between Jeffrey Epstein and a former girlfriend of his, where the girlfriend, it appears that she's inviting him over, and in the invite, the bait to get him to come, not bait like she was trying to catch him, like she did want him to come and visit, but what she told him to entice him was that her daughter, who was 13 or 15 at the time, she mentioned her by name, like you would to someone who is familiar with the child, and then said her five friends were going to be there. Dude, it's
Snap.
crazy. So I had this
Yeah.
discussion with my wife, and I'm sad that what I'm about to say is an actual reality we live in. But you do have people in this world who would impose something like that on their own child and see it as a rite of passage that they themselves went through. Because the woman that I'm talking about who dated Jeffrey Epstein, and if she dated this dude, she had to be familiar with some of his proclivities, right?
Absolutely.
You had to be familiar. And then you're bringing that in the presence of your child and other children. This woman who was doing that, after having dated him, ended up dating some billion,
Of course. Of
right? So
course.
it's almost like it's a rite of passage. It happened to her at some point. She was introduced to this world, whatever happened to her, and she got an outcome that she was preferable with or was satisfied with. And she's now going to put her daughter through the same thing.
And the sad thing is, I think this happens on a large scale. and on a small scale.
I
Because
think
I've
it
heard this
happens more often than we think it
than
happens,
we think it does, exactly.
right?
And I'll go into some psychology of this, not psychology, but some kind of history of this, which is there's some sick and twisted aspect of taking someone's quote unquote innocence that
Mm-hmm.
this
Mm-hmm.
society loves. And I mean that from not just a physical standpoint, but I mean that from also an intellectual or an emotional standpoint,
Well,
where,
gives the person who takes it a feeling of superiority, ownership.
yeah,
I took that
yeah,
thing that no one else can ever take from you again.
right. And there's technically no price tag for that. You
Yeah, yeah,
understand?
yeah.
In a world where these quote unquote men and women are, their souls and their lives are already bought and paid for. They're wealthy, they have everything they want. That's something that is rare, like a precious mineral that they can't always get. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where somebody like Epstein
Well,
and
and
his cohorts come in.
a lot of their desires revolve around those taboo things that can only be taken once,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Innocence, life, wealth, right?
Hmm.
Things that you don't come back from, because people like that chalk. Those are, notches on their belt. Destroying someone's life to them is a day at the office.
Sad but true, man. Sad but
It's the
true.
truth, man. It's crazy, and it's fucked up that we. It's not that I was gonna be hyperbolic, but it's not fucked up that we live in a world like that. It's fucked up that we live in a world that hasn't learned that lesson and moved on from it. And hopefully, we're at a point where that's happening. But like with a lot of other things, I have my doubts.
I don't know, man. I don't think so. One of the things I found out was I don't know if you remember the store. It was a big store back around here in the city, Alexander's. You remember that, right?
Oh hell yeah, I remember Alexander's.
Yeah. So the guy that used to own it is a real estate mogul, and his name is Andrew Farkas. And he
That name
ended up
sounds
going,
familiar.
yeah, he was down there. They got pictures of him and Epstein sitting in the boat, hanging out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, they found emails with him basically talking about 15-year-olds and stuff, 15 years old and stuff like that, things of that nature. And when they called him out on it, they basically stated that, nah, those things are being taken out of context. It's not actually like that.
So then, what's the context?
And what's the
Let's get in front.
context?
Let's get in front of Congress and let's discuss the context.
You know what I'm
I'm willing,
saying?
dude. I'm willing to hear you out. Not you, obviously, but I'm willing to hear whoever it is out under oath in front of a group of people that can hold you accountable for lying.
So this guy exchanged over 2,000 emails with
But
Jeffrey
his
Epstein.
claim is that we're taking it out of context, right?
Yeah, and
I'm
in the
reasonable.
email,
If you can
yeah,
explain to me the context that I am taking it out of, I'm willing to understand, but it needs to be under oath.
you know,
You get what I'm saying?
yeah, talking. But see, like, how far are you going to really go to actually push back against evidence, against things that we already know? Like, the denial is the only thing you have because the
But
evidence is
this is the
against
thing.
you.
This is the
Everything
game,
is
brother
against
man.
you.
You're describing the game. The
I know.
game is running out the clock. So, and we can get into this, but for once in his life, Chuck Schumer impressed me today. I don't know if you heard about the press conference he had with the Epstein Survivor Group.
No, I didn't hear about that.
All right, so he's gonna start. He's taking charge of pushing for, man. What's the young lady's name? Dufresne, the girl that killed herself.
Oh
Dufresne.
man, I know who you're talking
You know
about.
what I'm talking about. They
Yes,
named a law
yes.
after her, and they're going to push to get this legal. They're going to push to get it passed by Congress and then signed by the president, essentially extending or eliminating the statute of limitation on sexual abuse
Sexual
charges.
abuse charges. Yes, I remember that. I did hear about that. But I
So,
didn't know he was the one pushing it. But that's great
well, he
news.
came out in a press conference today, Schmucky Chucky, with the
Schmucky
survivor.
Chucky. I think we're gonna have to label him Schmucky Chucky from now on. I like that. Fuck Chuck Schumer. Schmucky Chucky.
Just in case anybody wants to know, I will not copyright that. I got that from somebody on the right. One of these guys has been called. I think Mark Levin has been calling him Schmucky Chucky Schumer
Schmucky
for
Chucky.
years. But yeah, I've
Yeah.
called him that for a long time too. See,
Yeah,
that's
he's
the
right.
thing y'all don't get. If there's anybody on whatever the other side is out there, we don't like most of these fucking guys either, bro. I
I
don't think you're gonna like who we like much either.
yeah, it's just a basic thing with that, which is, and I've had the conversation with various professors and other people, which is who's worse, the Democrats or the Republicans? And most of the time, everybody says Republicans because we all know that if they get into office, the economy and everything goes to shit because they're not trying to run the economy for the whole country. They're just running the economy for the wealthy billionaires. That's
So
it.
I, I'm gonna actually be a little bit more extreme on that. They're not running the economy for the billionaires and for the rich or the donor class. They're holding the economy hostage for those people.
You think so? I don't
Yes.
think so.
If they're willing to shut the economy down over tax breaks, if they're willing to shut the economy down over taking away government programs that people rely on, who else are you holding that again? You're holding the government hostage in favor of the rich billionaires. You're
Yeah.
telling us that we're going to lose our government programs and essentially the way of life we've become used to unless we're willing to give these tax breaks to the rich.
Yeah, but that's what I was saying is that they running the government for the rich, the billionaires. That's it.
They're running tax policy for them,
Yeah, I mean, a
right?
lot of
They
policies.
they,
It's not
well,
just
no, I mean,
remember, it's not just tax policies because remember, the subsidiary subsidies that some of these companies get are enormous in order to do the things they do. Like Apple is going to get
yeah, no, no, you're right, you're
some
right.
kind of setup. I believe it's in Kansas City, if I'm correct. Folks can fact check me on that. But it's to set up the glasses that go on our iPhones that have people that have iPhones.
Oh,
And
they're gonna bring the making of the that Gorilla Glass that they use.
correct, correct. And they're going to bring that to the States. But what do you think Apple is going to do right now? Do you think they're getting a tax break? Hell yeah, they're getting a tax break. Do you think they're getting massive subsidies as well to do this?
Both, yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. They're winning on
You
both
know,
ends of that.
so there's no loss to them. So the thing that's scary is that these people that are in these positions of power, and this is the thing that's really fascinating about this, right? Is that you got to think about this. They're the ones that are telling us to play by the rules and play fair, to actually do the right thing, go to work, be on time, be honest, be respectful, be this, be that. But they're the ones that are cheating the system
Mm-hmm.
from rooter to tutor, from
Oh,
beginning to end.
hell yeah.
They will completely bastardize a system in order to get exactly what they want. They will use force, they will use any kind of violence necessary, whether that be physical or mental or using with the worst way, to me, is pen and paper. You understand what
Well,
I'm saying? Like,
I was gonna say, if all those other tactics you named didn't work, they would resort to legislating it.
you know what I'm saying? So this is
Mm-hmm.
this is the this is the reason why, like, there's a saying that most people will put out there and they'll say, if you lie, you cheat. If you cheat, you steal.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore you can't be trusted. But
Yep.
if you're dealing with somebody or some group or some kind of entity, whether it be a corporation or whatever, and that company lies and cheats and steals from you, then, well, if you lie and cheat and steal back,
Well,
like,
now you're going into one. Well, hold on. You're delving
go
into
ahead. I,
the
I wanted, yeah,
specialities of one of my favorite authors. Niccolo Machiavelli said that, and I'll paraphrase this: if your opponent has already decided to cheat and you play by the rules and you continue to play by the rules,
it's
all you're
over.
doing is ensuring your own loss.
Yep.
You have to be willing to play on the field that your opponent is playing on, not the one that he
Hmm.
should be playing on.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
I
that is the
completely.
problem with the Democratic Party. If anybody wants to really get to the root of it, the problem with the Democratic Party, at least in the last 12 to 16 years, has been they are too unwilling to meet the Republicans where they are and keep demanding that Republicans meet them on a more civil battlefield. It's
I
not going to happen.
I don't. I agree with some of you're saying, but my pushback, and you know this already, is just that the Democrats The Democrats are slowly walking us towards the same things that the Republicans are walking us to.
No,
That's
I don't
that's the
disagree with that. I don't.
that's yeah. So that's what I'm saying, and
Yeah, no, I
that's
don't
why I agree
disagree
with
that
you.
neither one of them is taking us to the quote unquote promised land. But
Right, right,
Democrats, look, Merrick Garland is a perfect example of it. He was put in office by a Democratic president, and because he wanted to seem apolitical, he intentionally slow walked the prosecution of something that was a crime. That's not my opinion. You guys can fact check me all day, but according to Jack Smith's, what we know about Jack Smith's investigation, he was able to prove criminality in the events that led from election day up to January 6th and beyond,
correct.
right? But because this Democratic appointee wanted to be seen hands off, like he wasn't forcing justice, he intentionally slow walked what he knew was a crime.
And here we are now, years
Right?
later.
Thanks. I guess
Yeah,
ain't nobody going to be naming those schools after Merrick Garland.
absolutely. But now we're at a space now where there's so much corruption, right? That's being brought to the surface. And
Mm-hmm.
people now have access to information that they never had before, that it's very difficult now to put your head in the sand, as they say, and just act like everything is just normal, to act like
Well,
everything
it's
is
not
going.
normal anymore.
It's not.
I think, and I want to, especially like going forward, I want to make sure that we avoid the conspiracy theories that are going to inevitably be spun out of this. But I do think some of those conspiracy theories that QAnon and MAGA believed in, I think some of those are getting fleshed out at least to a certain degree. Now, like I said, my fear is that we get hung up on this, not you and I, but just as a general populace, we get hung up on the sensational. And because we're hung up on the sensational, we ignore some of the actual crimes.
Right, right. I think one of the things that I did notice that I thought was really interesting, and this is going into Stephen Miller, another crony, and he said something to somebody that I thought was really interesting. And he said when he was talking to when he was in one of his classes, one of the people in the class, the professor brought out a flag and started to explain certain things about the flag and had people make commentary about it. When they left the classroom, Stephen Miller went back into the actual dean's office and reported that this man had people step on the
Mm-hmm.
flag, right? And
Yep.
when confronted and said, "Why did you do that?" He said, "You know that." The other guy said to him, he said, "Yo, why'd you do that? You know that wasn't true." Stephen Miller's
Mm-hmm.
response was, "It's not about the truth. It's about how it makes you feel."
Yep.
And that's the thing that we have to be very mindful of is the outrage. The outrage
Yes.
that we
Yes.
feel, although that outrage is just, it has to be calculated, it has to be formatted, it has to be put together constructively so that it is organized. It cannot be blind rage because it
Well,
will
I
only
think in
go
a
ahead.
way, blind rage is his goal. There's a lot of fears about what's going to happen in the midterm elections, but I think the only thing that he can actually exhibit or exert any any control over or any force over is fear.
Hmm.
He's not going to stop states from holding elections. He's not going to disenfranchise entire cities or voting districts, right?
Hmm.
But what he can do is ensure that people are worried about what might happen when they go to vote, right?
Correct.
What he can
Correct.
do is, like you were just talking about emotion, they can provoke emotion and then start arresting people for protesting because they've labeled certain groups as terrorist groups,
There you go.
and then keep you from voting because you have a felony charge.
There you go. There
That's
you
what they're
go.
trying to do.
Yeah. They will work. They're going to try to work tooth and nail. And the other
Gangster, they're gonna
aspect.
try to they're gonna do what they do every cycle. And again, anyone can go back and look. They always take a multi-pronged attack at voting. They try to shave off every bit from every way they can, so that at the end of the day, those little slivers add up to a big piece of the pie.
Yeah, yeah. Try to get a large voting demographic not to get out there and vote. Now, again, going back to the corruption, right? And dealing with Epstein and how his tentacles spread all over the world. This
Mm,
is this is
I
one of
think
the
it's see.
things.
I think tentacles might not be an apt enough description. It's more of he's like a center point in a matrix of corruption around the world.
Right, right.
It's
But now let me ask you this though. Do you think that he's, because from what I understand, he might be a Mossad or an American resource?
well,
That's
at
what
some
he might
point,
be.
I there's no way that at some point in history he wasn't a resource for one or
Both.
the other, both. But I think towards the end, I guess maybe he was so good at it that he just became a international source for blackmail and cooperation.
Right. And now
Right?
the
Good.
now let me ask you this though. Do you think, because what I think is that there's definitely another resource like him that's probably from the Russian side.
Well,
Eh,
there's information in the files release that point to Epstein having been one of Putin's money managers.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
like I said, I think he was more, I guess the right term here would be freelance, right? He was just doing it and people were paying him for information that he had collected.
Yeah, but he was, see, the thing is, that's the reason why I think there's another spin to this, is that I think that he's connected to a lot of other areas around the world, but I also do
Yeah.
think that he is also, like, there's another part of him, there's another counterpart of him, not counter, but there's a replica of him in Russia and in China and in probably places like Japan too. And any so-called first world country, I think there's somebody like him, because
Well, okay.
you
So
remember in
I
Russia,
don't
there's a
I
lot of
don't
mail
doubt
order brides.
No, yeah, well, oh hell yeah. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I just think that he was like the Bond supervillain version of what a lot of countries use because he had
Hmm.
been doing it for so long. Ghislaine Maxwell's father was a Mossad agent,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
A lot of people think that Epstein was actually an asset for Ghislaine.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you caught her testimony yesterday, but she pretty much said, or through her lawyers said, that she's willing to clear people's names and I guess unmask other people's names if President Trump, and this was his words, President Trump gives her a pardon. And
Yep.
this was said in a closed door hearing where all the information was supposed to remain. And I think it was Andy Biggs came out of the meeting that was supposed to be confidential and private and essentially conveyed those wishes to the media.
Hmm. He blew that up. He might get in trouble.
No, he will not get in trouble, sir. He will not. Maybe
Uh,
at least not in this Congress.
nah,
Maybe in the
nah,
next
nah,
Congress he will.
nah. But real talk. This is the thing, man. Like, when I look at some of the things that have actually transpired and how her family, her father, it's all literally just red tape. Like, you can't see anything or hear about anything about
Well,
them.
that is kind of
It's
the point, right?
I know, but
You
I'm saying
throw up
how insidious that is.
Yeah, it's corruption, but it's see that's what I guess that's where I'm trying to go with Epstein's role here. I think he's like the central point of a lot of the corruption that we're aware of in this world,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? I wouldn't be surprised if certain people become assets of those other spy type individuals you're talking about because they were exposed by Epstein, right?
Hmm.
Like I need to get the Russians call it kompromat. I need to get kompromat on billionaire A. I call up Jeffrey. Hey Jeffrey, you got anything for me? I got a couple of million I can send you. He gives you that information. Then you approach the target. Well, we know you like little kids.
Game's over.
Now you're in my pocket.
Yep. Yep. Game's over. It's a wild thing, right?
Yeah, it
But
is.
this has been
It is.
happening for centuries. And
Hmm.
prior,
I think it's been happening since doing things like that were made taboo. because it happened. Things like that happened in ancient Rome and ancient Greece, and
Correct.
other ancient societies from a certain part of the world where certain people come from. Anyway,
Yeah,
let me not go down
yeah,
that road. But yeah,
yeah.
behavior like this was accepted at one point. They talk about, if you read some of the history of Alexander the Great, one of the greatest warriors and conquerors ever known to man, him and his army engaged in a lot of, we'll just call them grinder sessions together in mass. Yeah, no, seriously. And it wasn't a thing. But once that became taboo and once behavior like that became frowned upon, it went underground because power is never going to relinquish power. So once it went underground, people still had those thirsts. And now it was like, yo, you could do it, but now I have you.
Right. I do think that one of the things that when we mentioned is definitely during you know, the mafia era, that where the gangsters and the Rolling Twenties and all that era. I think
Hmm.
this already was a theme, but I think
Well,
obviously it
okay, so
matured.
hold on. The mafia was very, very well known for blackmail,
Of
right? They would
course.
have prostitution houses, they would have gambling houses, they would have speakeasies during Prohibition. They would get people of influence into these places and then either through blackmail or strong arming ingratiate them to whatever family they were a part of. That's how they got all these judges in their pocket. That's how they got all these police chiefs in their pocket. They
Yeah.
exposed them to their own proclivities and then took advantage of it.
Right. Right. And this is why I think that Epstein is a long line of men dating back from that era. And I have some work on this, but I have the book in the back. I got to find out what's her
Hmm.
name again. There's an author that has done some really remarkable work on it. Now, right, circling back to the ties and the connections internationally. One of the
Hmm.
things that was noticed is the fact that he was all over the world. This is
Yep.
not a dude that was just sitting in Florida just hanging out. He wasn't in on his island just hanging out. It was international trips. And he
Well,
had a place
one
in
of his
Paris.
one of his biggest accomplices, or whatever they're calling him, was the is it Prince Andrew from England,
Mhm.
the one
Yes.
who lost all his royal titles.
Mhm.
I actually heard an analyst make a good point today, or point out something that was in some of these files. It looked like Prince Andrew was essentially the uh, the bait to get more and more important people in Epstein's sphere, and then they would get into activities that were blackmailable.
Right, right. So one of the things I was thinking about even with his case is not just his case, but in general with Europe is that they're actually taking action on some of
Are
the
they?
names that they seem,
Are they?
yeah,
Well, so
on
in
some
some
of the
places,
names, some of
yeah.
them, not all, but there's taking some action as opposed to here in the States where the case actually blew up. Nobody is getting pulled to the side. Nobody's
Nope.
being mentioned. But now I laugh because I know this, and this one thing that's we all know is that if Obama was in those files, if Obama was in those files as a quote unquote suspect, whew,
So I'm gonna
dude,
hit you with the line that I've started using for all of my confrontational posts or confrontational replies on social media. My brother in Christ, listen to me. If the Senate and the Congress were 100% Democrat and Barack Obama's name was on that list, he would be impeached in a week. I don't care who was sitting. They could have put anybody that was aligned. It could have been all up and down the ticket people that were on Obama's team that were put into the Senate and Congress. The Democrats would have fucking impeached him in a week, if
in
for
a
no other
week.
reason than to avoid the Republicans saying that you took 8 days to do it instead of 7,
Hmm.
right? But these guys, you can show them, what is it, 38,000 mentions of Trump in the fucking files, and they'll
Nothing.
act like nothing.
Nothing. And I do have, so what I do have is the book that I was inferring to, which is done by Whitney Webb. And it's called One Nation Under Blackmail, Volume One. You should check it out. Just
Yo,
Google it up and do a quick little research on it.
you need to stop aligning with my algorithm.
You
I
found
haven't
that?
watched no, not even. I haven't watched much of it, but I've been
Oh, you
getting a
gotta,
ton of Whitney Webb
you gotta,
suggestions in my YouTube feed.
because she's pretty much been on this for a long time. A long time. This
The
is
two or
not
three
like,
things that I've watched from her were very informative. So I'm pretty sure some of what I've mentioned or will mention tonight came from some of those videos. So I will definitely make it a point to watch more of it.
yeah, yeah, she's really, really good. There's a lot of work to be done in her space, and I think there'll be more work that she'll probably even put out because as this progresses, she probably is going through some of the files just like everybody else is and coming up with different perspectives based on it as well. And again, her
See
work
now,
is good.
with all the amount of people, and I'm probably going to lump us into a group that I'm going to speak badly about right now, but I think some of the more valuable work is going to come from reputable journalists that are taking their time with what they're going to report. Because there's too much there. I mean, you and I are not journalists. We're definitely not reputable yet, but
We're working on it.
there's too much there for some of these more reliable journalists to come out now and say this is what's going on. I can get blog posts, Substack posts, things like that, but to really report on it is going to take time, man. It's 3.5 million pages of documents.
Yep. And I think that was obviously part of the goal, right? To overwhelm us.
Mm-hmm.
So we have so much to go through, so much to put together. It is literally like it's like throwing a million piece puzzle on the ground on the floor and just saying, go ahead, figure it out in the next couple of months before the midterms. You know what I'm
So
saying? Which will happen, by the way.
you bring up the puzzle analogy, and it's actually one that I made with my wife earlier, but it was a little bit different. Picture a similarly large size amount of pieces for a puzzle, and then you're only being given the outer edges of the puzzle and then some of the connective tissue in the middle, but none of it is enough to actually see a picture of what
Hmm.
you're building, right? And some of those pieces that you need to complete that middle piece haven't been given to you yet.
Right.
That's what
Right.
we have.
Right. Absolutely. A lot of missing pieces, a lot of things pulled away from us so that we can't see the full picture.
Hmm.
But this is an ongoing theme in general. And they've been doing this for a long time, which is even with what we're dealing with now with mass surveillance coming and hitting us, we have yet to really even understand how much of what we're looking at is being monitored and to what degree. And this is something when
hold,
yeah,
hold on.
yeah,
Let me put on my tinfoil hat real quick. And we don't need to go too much into the subject, but Savannah Guthrie's mom kidnapped. It's been 10 days. They haven't been able to, really come up with any information about what happened until today. They were able to get ring, or not ring.
I
I
thought it
want to make
was
sure.
thought it
No, it
was a
wasn't ring.
camera. It was
It
a camera
is.
though.
It's a
Yeah.
Nest camera. A
Okay.
Nest camera. They were able to get footage from it. But here's the thing. If they were able to get it today, why didn't they get it? I know the answer here. Why didn't they get it when they found out she was kidnapped and realized she had the camera? They weren't recording. Well, they were recording, but they were recording for things like motion. So they weren't
Mm,
on a constant record and then
right.
getting alerts. They would only go active when it detected motion. So when that happens, after a certain amount of time, those little snippets that you would get saved get erased. On the server side, on the provider side, they get erased.
Mm,
Nest had to go and do a forensic recovery of some of their servers to get those snippets, essentially transient snippets that were there for a few hours and then got offloaded because of their recycle schedule.
right. Right. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah,
So
very
nothing's,
interesting.
so remember, folks, nothing's ever deleted. and
Exactly. That's exactly where I was fucking going, bro.
nothing's ever
Because it
deleted.
was in theory never recorded, and they still got it.
Still got it. Still got it. In the Cypher Podcast, folks. This is one of the things that I think is important because you have to say to yourself, Epstein is an op, right? So how much was he recording and how much were people keeping contact and tabs on him as well? Because there's no way that this man was this smart
I
to
think he
do
was
some of the
recording it
things.
all. I think he was
Exactly.
recording it all.
Exactly. But I think that, hear me out, there were
Well, you
people actually
go ahead, go ahead, go.
keeping tabs on him, meaningly
Yeah,
knowing,
no, 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 no.
knowing
He was in a hierarchy. He was an asset. Somebody had him as an asset.
exactly. So that's why I'm saying that if you're going to have somebody like that out there, if you have an agent, right? And this is the same thing, and it's a poor analogy, but it's sports. If you know you have an asset in this athlete, you know that this athlete has great promise and will become X, Y, and Z. You need to foster that and nurture that and put the certain things around them in order for them to get what they need to go. And then once they get there, you have to maintain it. So you need to have people in places, in business, in health, in every actual space, in intellectual realms to actually help him throughout the process. Because when I heard Jeffrey Epstein speak
Mm-hmm.
on Steve Bannon's show, I was like, oh, this motherfucker's an idiot.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Oh
was
no.
like, he's an idiot.
So you don't need to be a genius, dude. He was a fucking mediocre math professor, and then became a fucking fund manager.
Oh, yeah. So, and think about now the things that the assets that he acquired with literally no trace of where his income came from the largest house
Lex
in
Western.
Manhattan, right? And then the island, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then the place in Florida. Then added on to that, he had another place in Paris, and then he had two jets and a helicopter. And you know he had a yacht along the way, or a couple of
Mm-hmm.
yachts along with that as well. So you have to say to yourself, there wasn't any big boy toy that he could not get his hands on, but he had no skill sets that were noticeable, nothing tangible. So somebody was keeping tabs on him and making sure that hey, he gets this, he gets that. And that same person, I'm pretty sure, or a group of people, when he finally got arrested and was put in jail right downtown in Manhattan over here, they said, yo, he's got to go. And I don't care how you do it, I don't care who knows, but he cannot speak. He's a blundering idiot and he can't keep his mouth shut. He's got to go. It's like that
Mm-hmm.
scene in Goodfellas, right? At the end of
Mm-hmm.
Goodfellas, where they were talking and they were like, so what do you think about Sammy? Oh, Sammy's quiet. He won't say a word. Yeah, no, no. The kid's a good guy. He's a good kid. And then he
Mm-hmm.
turns to them. He goes, it doesn't hurt to be,
Be
safe.
safe. Yeah, dude. You're describing the entire end of Goodfellas
Yeah,
when De Niro's character gets paranoid and starts killing everybody.
kill everybody, bro. They all got to go. And that's what happened with him. He had to go. And I'm pretty sure, my personal opinion, some other people disappeared too, but we will never know until later on. I'm 110% sure
Yeah,
because
yeah,
if
yeah.
he's an asset, then that means again he had to have people around him that were assets as well. And they may not have been American. They could have been in Israel. They could have been in Ukraine because he was in Ukraine too.
So
This is a
what you're talking about is his network. His network
exact
downstream was eliminated. Absolutely.
yes, yes.
If not already eliminated, in the process of being eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't doubt that. So I think the answer to your other question is who from his network is still alive?
Oh man, I don't know. That's a great point
Dude,
because
it's very easy answer. Maxwell.
Maxwell, you think the
Listen
only
to
one?
me. If she's campaigning to get herself pardoned and out of prison, she's not afraid to be in the outside world.
Hmm. Despite even the allegations against her, that's
Forget the
crazy.
allegations against her. She's not afraid to become another Epstein.
No,
She's not afraid to become one of the downstream, collaborators we were just talking about, because she wasn't downstream of Epstein. She's upstream of him.
Yeah,
His
yeah,
network is closed off underneath her.
yeah. I completely agree with that. Completely agree with that. I think she's definitely above because her father was the one that brought
Exactly.
him in.
I was just about to say, we were just talking about her dad. Now, and I don't think this is in any way coincidental, before she really becomes a thing with Epstein, there are records of her being on the boat that her father, or the yacht that her father owned, that I think was named after her. And
Yes,
guess who
yes.
was a passenger, a regular passenger on that boat?
Ooh,
Your president, Donald Trump. And
in the
again,
Cypher
anybody out
Podcast,
there want to know,
folks.
before you give let me give a disclaimer. You can fact check me on that. Actually,
Yeah.
I'll make sure that when we cut video for that, I fact check myself. Donald Trump. And I'm not saying that he's going to sue me. He don't give a fuck about me, but I'm not the only person that has said this. So if it
Hmm.
wasn't true, he'd sue. But
Yes,
it's in actual publications. His presence on these boats at these parties.
yes. And remember, folks, the FBI went through these documents already and sift to redact his name as much as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and still his name is in there over 1,000 times. This is
A
I
thousand? Did you say over 1,000?
over 1,000.
Over 1,000 is what you
O-
said?
Yeah, over 1,000.
His name appears in the Epstein files over 38,000 times.
Oh, and the still and the ones that are just released now still. Oh wow. I
Yeah,
guess I'm on.
his name is mentioned over 38,000 times. Don't get me
Jesus.
wrong, I'm not saying it's in 38,000 documents, but his name
No,
comes up 38,000 times.
1,000 times. Yeah, yeah. Which means he's well versed, well known in the circle all the time.
Mhm.
Just what it is. That's what he does.
Put it
That's
this
his.
way.
They were
Put
best
it this
friends for
way.
15 years, man.
And again, this is fact checkable. His name appears 20,000 more times than the combined 10 people below him.
Mm, mm.
And that
And
includes Bill Gates, that includes Bill Clinton, that includes, what's his name? Elon Musk, that includes Peter Thiel and Bannon.
Der, and probably Dershowitz as well too, of course. Now,
Dirty Dershowitz.
Dirty Dershowitz. And this is the thing, right? One of the things I was curious about is that, and I heard this from a senator today. This was a Vermont senator. I forget her name, but I will look this up, and you guys could check this
Oh
on
man,
YouTube as well.
I think I know. Go ahead.
She was speaking, and they were asking her a question about the documents because she was going over some of them. She said, "What do you?" They asked her and said, "What do you think?" She said, "Oh, it's disgusting. They're all disgusting. They're trash, etc." Right? I'm paraphrasing. But then he asked the question. He said, "So what about what about this case? Can you tell us so far, though?" And she said one thing that I think was extremely important. She said, "Jeffrey Epstein was not kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. That is actually
Mm-hmm.
false.
Yep.
It's false. So that's
So
just something hands
the
down that we should take
the
into
reality
consideration."
is the reality is he wasn't. This is and this is a trick politicians and con men like our president like to run. He wasn't a member of Mar-a-Lago in so much as he didn't pay membership dues to attend Mar-a-Lago. He was a
Mm.
guest,
Hmm.
right? And as a guest, that means you're allowed on the property without having to pay dues. So on the record, Trump is not lying. He was not a dues paying member of Mar-a-Lago. What they're not saying is that he had the freedom to come and go from Mar-a-Lago because he was considered by the owner a guest.
Mm. Man. And then you go look at some of these people that are in the email, by the way. You look at Elon Musk, you look at all these guys. There are emails with him and Elon Musk
Yeah,
constant,
let's give Elon a moment. Let's really give
uh,
Elon a moment because
dude, constantly going back and forth,
no,
constantly
but
emails
hold on.
from some.
It was the tenor of the conversations. I don't know how
Hmm.
much of those conversations you read, but what you get after you read enough of the emails between him and Epstein was he was trying to attend these parties, and Epstein must have got the ick from him because it
Yes.
was like he was avoiding. And at one point, he told, I think Ghislaine tells him, or he tells Ghislaine to tell Musk that we're shutting down the parties. We'll let you know when they pick back up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
So
they
Elon
seem
Musk,
like
hold on
good.
real quick. Elon Musk swore up and down he wasn't in those. He's there. And not only is he there, he's begging to be a part of something that he's being kept out of. Because no matter how much money you have, when you're as unlikable as Elon Musk, even the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world are turned off by you.
Yeah, because the emails very much read, folks, that they were trying to like avoid him a lot. And I'm talking from like 2014 September to like December, January. They
Mm-hmm.
were just avoiding him. Christmas Eve, New Year's, Christmas Eve and New Year's, he's reaching out
Yep.
trying to find out about when the party is like, and it's just
And
not. He's
at one point in the email, he asks, or in the email chain, he asks, what is the craziest party they're going to get into when he goes?
mm,
Yeah,
mm.
dude. I mean, whenever I sit there and read or listen to a lot of what they've started discovering in these files, I find myself I find myself somewhere between needing to take a shower and not wanting to be nude. I just feel honestly, it disgusts me because I feel dirty, and then it's like it's it's disgusting, man. It's
What's interesting is that I look at the emails, right? Because I'm looking at some of the emails now, and there's so many non-white people. This guy Joe Ato. There's a woman named Stacy Plaskett. That's a
mhm.
U.S. Virgin
The
Islands
U.S.
delegate.
representative from Virgin Islands, yeah.
Yeah, there's women in here. Eva Dubin. And there's another woman, Sue Yin Pingvri, wife of Woody Allen.
Now hold on. You telling me Woody Allen's daughter was cheating on him?
I think so. Confirming dinner for tonight, my birthday. I've invited James Watson, guy that discovered DNA. That's so exciting. Happy birthday. See you tonight. Like this is just wild. But the point I was making with these text messages is these are this is a very small bunch of text messages and a lot of them it's a mixture of non-white people, and a lot of non-white people are in here and women, but I'm pretty sure that the real heavy ones are the ones that are really white males, specifically older ones. And there's
Well,
not enough here.
I think the ones that you're going to find in that inner circle are going to be mostly white males. I think a lot of this is gravity too, right? And I'm not trying to absolve anybody who was involved with any of this. I just feel like some people were, because of their perversions or proclivities, whatever you want to call it, sucked into this orbit because they were popular or, like you said, the person who discovered DNA, right? And then you
Yeah.
get invited by your famous friends to be around other famous people, and now you're in a seedy world, right?
Hmm.
So, again, I'm not trying to absolve anybody from their involvement in these things. I just think there are different ways for people to get sucked into, you know,
Yeah.
selling their
There's,
soul, for lack of a better term.
yeah. I mean, look, if you get called into an event and you're pulled into some meeting to do something, meet somebody, etc., it's a scenario where you quite frankly, it's like walking into a party and you just don't know who's going to be at the party. You understand what I'm
Mhm,
saying?
mhm.
It,
Or to keep with the theme that you gave earlier, it's like getting asked to do a job in the mafia
yeah. Yeah.
and not really having the option to say no because it's asked at a moment where if you say no, now you're gone,
Now
right?
you're gone.
And with a lot of these people, they're at these events with all these people that are doing these things, and that peer pressure's there, right? So
Right.
they're gonna all their peers, and they're gonna think to themselves, wait a minute. All of these people that I admire, that I want to be around, are doing this thing. If I don't do it with them, I'm gonna be an outcast, and then I
Peer
can never
pressure.
come to the island again.
Peer pressure.
Gangster, listen to me. Peer pressure is a thing. I don't disbelieve in peer pressure. There's no amount of peer pressure in this world. You got to kill me, bro. We're not going down the road that some of these people went simply off peer pressure.
Yep.
There's got to be a threat to my life. And honestly, the threat to my life might not be enough. You might have to threaten the life of somebody I love.
It's wild, man.
But some
It's
people, yo,
wild.
some people just they give in to their darker sides.
Absolutely, man. And I'm looking at, man, I'm looking at pictures here that are just wow. The Facebook ones, folks, I strongly recommend going through this and looking at the quote unquote J-mail, and you will see everything. Like there's just so much information here. And if you're interested in this, you could dig deeper and deeper and deeper. From everybody's there, from Diana Ross to Bill Clinton to Michael Jackson.
Hmm.
They're pictures of everybody. If they were wealthy, famous, gifted, whatever, they were in here. Bill Clinton is in here a few times. There's no getting
Dude,
around it.
so I want to explain what I'm about to say correctly. There is a picture of Bill Clinton in a single seat, like not a recliner, it doesn't kick back, but it's like a single seat love chair. And in front of him, on his knees, in what appears to be a soon to be sexual manner, is someone that appears to be Donald Trump. Now hold on. I already know 80% of y'all just said, oh, wait a minute, now that's AI. So what I did was I took the picture. I asked ChatGPT to not consider who is in the picture. All I want to know is what is the likelihood that the picture that I was showing ChatGPT was created by another AI. The
Mm,
um the answer that I got back was a lot more in depth than I thought it was going to be. But it looked at things like lighting patterns. It looked at obviously things like hands and physical features. But it went even deeper than that. It looked at wrinkle patterns in the clothing and how uniform they were versus how naturally they occurred. Because there's no way to plan how the sleeve on your elbow wrinkles when you bend your arm. But because a computer is making a computer generated image, it's going to try to add some fluidity to it. There will be
mm.
some sort of a pattern. So it just started picking the image apart. And at least GPT thinks the image is legit. And it's taken in 2004.
Wow. Wow.
So I'll make sure that that is up there during the course of our conversation. And I'll also make sure that we get some of that research that I just mentioned in there. But who knows, bro?
Yeah.
So and I'm not gonna go too deep off on this tangent, but it just made me think of something. Have you ever seen The Shining?
Of course.
All
A
right,
bunch of times.
all right. Um, a lot of that minus the supernatural aspect of it, but a lot of that how you saw it was kind of like an insular society that would go to this place and then they did these things together. Or another good example would be Eyes Wide Shut. That is what we're dealing with here. That is the world that we're getting into,
Yep.
right? When we're
We
when we're
always
looking at these files.
and we always know these worlds exist. It's just we have never had even an inkling or just a look into it.
Yeah.
It's never been a thing where we can glance into this space even.
Well, one of our first real looks into it is Stanley Kubrick's last movie, Eyes Wide Shut.
Eyes wide shut. Yeah.
But again, like you said, these are conspiracy theories that I remember reading about in the 90s. I used to have a bunch of the New World Order book, Behold a Pale Horse. Behold a Pale Horse, William Cooper talks about child sex trafficking rings that go up into the upper echelons of power.
Right.
And he was talking about it back in the post Vietnam days.
What I think, I mean, because they definitely dealt with that. One of the things, one of the things that I think people don't understand is like whenever people from other countries come and conquer another country, even a war, their
Mm-hmm.
women and children are just,
Our prizes.
yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but
Spoils of war.
that's one of the things that definitely was happening back then in Vietnam. 110% for sure.
In Vietnam, in Germany, all across Europe, and I'm not talking about even historically. I just mean in World War II. I'm
Yeah,
sure it
yeah.
happened in Korea. I'm sure after the Korean War, there was a large influx of Korean wives in America.
And there were well, there's still to this day. There's
No, I mean
a
to this
weird,
day, but I'm sure
yeah,
that after the Korean War, a lot of these guys that were there either brought some over themselves or kept connections in Korea where they were able to get a wife or, bring a wife over. Dude, a friend of mine lives up in, I've mentioned him before, he lives in upstate Florida. And his stepfather was married to a South Asian woman, and they got a divorce after she'd been here for like 10 years. They got a divorce, and within a week, the pastor from the area was at the old man's house trying to convince him to meet some woman from the same country that was a part of their mission in that country. And the
mm,
idea was to marry her to this man that's an octogenarian. I think that's the right way to say it. Anyway, he's 80 plus, and she was probably in her 30s or 40s. But the idea was to get her over here, get her married, and it's just like a system.
yeah,
But
like a
them fucking
pipeline.
Mexicans picking your fruits, man, they gotta go.
In the Cypher Podcast, folks, I do think that that's an important aspect to mention is that there is some kind of, to the winner go the spoils, and that's kind
Yeah.
of the situation that we dealt with and we see on a consistent, on a constant basis. Now,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I wanted to mention also was, and it's already been blown up, was the fact that JP Morgan Chase was heavily involved in this. And I believe Deutsche Bank also. I have to
Yep.
double check on Deutsche, but I believe so as well. They are
Mm-hmm.
heavily involved because there were a lot of transactions. And one of the individuals that was doing business with Jeffrey Epstein left Deutsche Bank, or I believe was kicked out after they
Yes.
found out about the transactions that were going on. But this individual is still not under arrest. He's still living high and fly on the hog.
It's
There's
like we
nothing.
said about Prince Andrew.
Yeah,
The actions that have been taken they've been, for me and you, would be the equivalent of losing our current job,
110%.
right? But nobody's gone to
110%.
jail. And until,
No.
honestly, I know that there are talks of, I think it's Keir Stormer's, one of his assistants, one of the people that's high in his administration, Lord Mendelson, is it? Something like that. He was kicked out of government. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he loses his title because Lord or Sir is something that they bestow upon you.
Mm,
But again, if he doesn't go to jail, what's the point?
what's the point? Exactly. And that's what has me kind of curious about this whole scenario is like, this is really a quote unquote shattering of the so called elites because if it's one thing people in these positions, such as yourself and myself, that are not rich, we understand abuse and especially sexual
Mm-hmm.
abuse of children, because we all have children that we would die for. And it seems
Mm-hmm.
like these people, it's the complete opposite. They'll sell their children to anybody and anything,
Mm-hmm.
anytime, any
Dude,
place. And
the-
go
there,
ahead.
there's information in those Epstein files that at least paints the picture that part of what they were doing was taking the babies that some of these young girls were having, allowing the girls to raise them for a while, and then essentially doing whatever it is that they did with these young children.
Wow.
Dude, it's fucking is like I said, I don't want to get caught in the conspiracy side of it, but if even a small portion of what is in those files is true,
Hmm.
um, it's probably some of the worst shit that we've ever as a society had to deal with publicly.
Yeah, this society. I'm sure shit happened in the past, but this is different for
But that no. But those societies in the past didn't deal with it. Because if they did, it wouldn't still be a thing worldwide. I think we're at the point where at some point in the near future, and that would probably be after sometime in 2027, we might actually get to the point where we're going to actually deal with what is in those files.
I
because
don't
we're
I don't
learning
know.
about it, but we're not dealing with it as a government.
Yeah, I don't think the government is going to do anything with it. I think if the people don't apply pressure, nothing is going to happen.
Well, no, no, you're not wrong about that. You're not wrong about that. But I think we're going to find ourselves in a position to apply that pressure.
The question is, can we sustain it? That's my thing. And this goes back to what I was stating in
Well, let
regards
me let
to
me let me let me let me spin my little theory real quick. If you look across a lot of the special elections that have been going on, there have been there have been more non-establishment Democrats in these elections than you've seen in other years in these special elections, and the Democrats are destroying the Republicans in these special elections. Um, if that's predicting the future of this cycle, that means there's going to be a huge blue wave, and that means a good portion of that blue wave is going to be new blood. If that group of new Congress people and senators can form a caucus like the Black Caucus or the Latino Caucus, if they can form a caucus and decide amongst themselves that if they're going to choose a thing to work on, they're going to vote in unison for and against everything. They can hold the government hostage, right? They can through shutting down the government, they can hold it hostage and get some of this stuff done. But we have to get those people elected. And that's why the Republican Party is so afraid. That's why they went into Georgia to get those records. That's why they want the voter rolls from all these other states, because they're afraid that if they lose power and what comes in to fill that void isn't Chuck Schumer's version of the Democrats, they're screwed.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. I do think that my part is, I don't know, I'm very leery about the Democratic Party as a whole. And I don't I don't disagree with you that there are different Democrats coming in. They're not the typical prototype. So they don't follow the Chucky Schumer thing and they may be on a different level, but
Mm-hmm.
I won't hold my breath. I will wait and see what exactly happens because I don't, my policy is this. I don't really hold any kind of politician to any mantle and say that this or that person is that great, or any individual for that matter, to be quite frank. I more or less look at what they do and I want to see their policies, what they have in place, what is their ideology, you know? And going back to what
Mm-hmm.
I was saying before, if you lie, you cheat. If you cheat, you steal. Therefore, you can't be
Mm-hmm.
trusted. You know what I'm saying? So that's the kind of attitude I have towards it. So I'm curious to see what happens, but I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I be kind of, these politicians. So
Yeah, I
we'll
mean, look,
see.
at some point, every politician is going to soften their edge. AOC had to do it, Bernie's had to do it. But I think the key is if you can get enough in there together and there can be some kind of unity like you get on the Republican side, that maybe they can force, I don't want to say change, change comes with time, but they can force some things to be done more in the interest of the people and less in the interest of the establishment and the billionaires.
We'll see. We'll see, man. I'm optimistic, but
I've told you my litmus test. APAC support.
yeah,
If
yeah,
you're a
that's a good one.
Democrat and APAC is against you, you probably have my support. I'm gonna need to listen to some more, but that is one huge brownie point.
It is. It is. I will admit that. It is for me. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens, man, in the Cypher podcast, folks. So what you think, man? I think we covered a lot today. We got like a good chunk in, and there's still
Yeah, and
way more to
we did it in record time, bro. It's only an hour and 8 minutes.
bro, we got a long way to go with this Jeffrey Epstein stuff. We
Oh
ain't
yeah,
touched the
no,
surface.
dude is gonna we're gonna have a recurring Jeffrey Epstein slash fucking Stephen Miller. We
Yeah.
didn't even talk about Bavino. What happened with that jabroni?
Yep. There's a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
things
we
that are
got
off
a
the
lot.
table, man. We gotta touch base on a lot of those things and see what's going on because you know there's plenty of stuff to deal with and talk about, man. So let's dive into it on the next one, folks. Until next time, and my phone is ringing now. Ain't that crazy?
Perfect timing.
Until next time, folks, we will catch you on the rebound in the Cypher Podcast. Peace, y'all.
Peace.